Hello my friends, I'm Vicki Parfino for Aussie Stampers, and today I have 3 Magical Mermaid bookmarks to show you. Now if you'd like to see lots more mixed media and card making videos, then start now by subscribing if you haven't done so already, and click on that bell so you don't miss anything. So the bookmarks I'm going to show you how to make today are all made on different paper, using different techniques, but using the same stamp set. And how this idea came about, I saw the Magical Mermaid stamp set and I had to have it. I just loved it. So Paul and I were reading some books this week and we were fighting over who had the bookmarks because we tend to read quite a few books at once. And so there are always a lack of bookmarks in our house. So I said, well, I'm going to make some more bookmarks for us this week. And that's exactly what I'm doing. So this is a bookmark I got from the last book that I was reading by Jojo Moyes, which is Still Me. If you've read some of Jojo Moyes' books, let me know in the comments below because I'm a real fan. So I'm cutting these pieces to 8 inches by 2 1/8 of an inch. And I'm getting out all the supplies I'm going to make for the first bookmark, which is on a really dark purple cardstock. And I'm going to emboss it with silver embossing ink. So I'm going to rub some embossing powder over it to begin and use some Versamark. And I'm using a stamping positioner so that I can get a really good impression, but also so that I can leave this stamp in place so that every bookmark has the mermaid and the little saying on top in exactly the same place. So I've covered that with some silver embossing powder. And now I'm just going to heat set. And I want to show you how magical this does look on dark cardstock. It's just gorgeous. So here's the magic. We're starting to heat that with the heat gun. Just turn it from one edge to the other. And look how blingy that is on dark card. Isn't it gorgeous? Absolutely lovely. This is one of my favorite combos for the silver embossing powder on dark purple cardstock. All right, now before we get into anything else, I wanted to let you know about the prize for July and August. This is the prize I'm giving away for these 2 months. And I'm giving away a Moleskine planner-sized journal. It has a little folder in the back, beautiful creamy paper, and it has sewn spine. So it has a sewn spine in it. And I'm also giving away with that 12, yes, 12 sticker sheets from Heidi Swap. So the way to enter and be in the prize is firstly to subscribe if you haven't already done so, like this video, click on that bell, which is really important. That's the next thing you need to do, and then just leave a comment. So it's that simple, and I'll be drawing the winner at the end of August, and good luck. You can see all the pretty foils that are in this packet of planner stickers. So I have a planner that I love, which I use, which is exactly this size, and I use stickers in it and I put all sorts of things in it just to keep me on track. So getting back to the next bookmark, so there's our first bookmark finished, which is the silver embossing on the Elegant Eggplant cardstock. Now I'm using some watercolor paper. Now you saw at the beginning I'm using some Fabriano cold pressed watercolor paper, and same as the last one, I'm going to emboss. But this time I'm going to make sure that I have a really good impression. When you are stamping on watercolor paper, it's really important that you give it a good press and maybe stamp it a few times, which is what I did just to make sure that I wouldn't miss anything. Now I'm embossing in black, same as before. Now what you'll notice also when you're embossing on watercolor paper is even though you've used a powder tool, you're going to get a little bit of powder that just wants to cling to the paper. So that's why I brought the little paintbrush in to take off any extra. You'll also notice it takes twice as long to emboss because it's much heavier cardstock. So it takes a lot longer for the cardstock to heat up. Now this is a cool technique I'm going to show you. This is actually a technique I've done before on one of my cards, and I loved it so much I wanted to do it on this bookmark. So first of all, I'm just scribbling with my markers onto my craft mat and bringing in a nice watercolor brush. It's not too thick. It's a long, what I would describe as a long watercolor brush rather than a round one. But I love this brush. It's good for working with. Two colors here. I have Bermuda Bay and I think that's Pacific Point that I'm using. And I don't end up using all of these colours. I only really end up using 5 colours. So some of the ones that are sitting there, those 2 pale blues I don't use, but the rest of them I'm using. This is Blush Blossom. This is a marker that I think is no longer available. So I'm bringing in some darker colour as well. I'm bringing in a soft suede colour and darkening up that skin tone. Excuse me. Now for the hair, I'm using Hello Honey. And now I feel as though I want to show you the next technique. Now I haven't got any water on my page at this point except what I've already coloured, and I'm drawing a line around the outside of the image and bringing in a wet brush, and it's important that you have your brush nice and wet. And see how I'm pulling that ink out from the edge, and this is what's going to give an incredible effect. This mermaid is actually going to look as though she's splashing into the water. And I love how this turned out. I had to share it with you. So again, pull that ink out from the edge of the line that you've drawn. And you can see we're creating the sea that she's swimming in, but I'm also going to create an incredible splash. And it's really fun. So just go around and add more water to the outside so you don't end up with a harsh line around the outside. And each time just do a small section at once, otherwise it can dry too quickly on you and then you end up with this very harsh line. You don't want that. You want to work quickly while the marker is still moist, adding your wet brush and pulling out the ink. Now this is the first layer, and you can see already I'm building up a background for her, and it looks as though she's sitting on top of the water. Now I have a paper towel, and it's always important when you're doing watercolouring with a brush that you have a paper towel so you can mop up any mess. And I'm just going around and doing the whole of the outside of the mermaid, and this is step 1. Now the saying that I've put on all 3 of my bookmarks is mermaid kisses and starfish wishes, which is really sweet. And there's a little starfish up in the quote at the top. But I think these 2 stamps just fit perfectly on the size of the bookmark, which was 8 inches by 2 1/8 of an inch. Now I'm just going to finish off this layer, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to fill in the blue at the top of the bookmark. Pretty simple. I'm just going to scribble over the word wishes and bring in that wet paint straight away, the wet water straight away. You need to make sure you have water on your brush and you don't let it dry. You have to work quickly. And then I'm just bringing in a bit more blue. Just be careful when you use this technique that you don't water down your markers by putting them in a wet spot. I'm bringing in some of the green, some of that Bermuda Bay into her tail, because I feel like she needs a little bit more colour in there. And I'm letting the outside dry while I'm doing this. Now I'm going to fill in her hair with the Hello Honey, which is a nice blonde colour. And I'm just drawing that with the brush tip of my marker. Now I've brought in a flat brush, and this is how you get the technique for the splash. So I have some water on it, and all I'm doing now is pulling out more of that blue with the water. So I'm creating like a halo effect all the way around her. And I'm just going to do that all around the outside. So I'm really glad I decided to make these bookmarks. I'm actually using them on some books again now. I'm having the girly ones. I'm giving Paul the more blokey ones that I've made before for him. But yeah, I do love reading. I find that, especially in winter, and it's freezing cold weather here in Sydney at the moment because we're in the southern hemisphere, it's winter. And I have the fire going, and I love nothing better than curling up with a book and a cup of coffee and having a good read in front of the fireplace. It's really relaxing. Now you can see now I'm going to bring in some more blue that's in my puddles on the craft sheet. So this is really going to add that extra effect. So now I'm bringing in the darker blue again. This is Pacific Point that I've scribbled in there onto my craft sheet. And I'm pulling that out with the flat end of the brush. And this is the next step in creating the splash. But we're not quite there yet. There is still one more step to go, and you'll see how it just changes everything. Now I'm starting to turn my brush onto the side, and this is where the splash comes in. So I've turned that flat brush onto the side, and it's quite dry. I'm just pulling out the ink. Look at that. That's your splash. I love this technique. I've used it quite a lot on florals too, where you can pull the colour out around a flower and create a blue background. It's almost similar to what I do with my Copic markers when I pull out a colour around the image with a darker colour, then a medium colour, then a lighter colour. And this allows you to do that with the amount of water that you use. Now I'm just bringing in the marker to give her a half a green and a half a blue tail here, because I felt like her tail was a little bit pale. That rhymes. Okay, so there's our second one. Now the third bookmark I'm doing on shimmery white cardstock, and I love this. It's really quite rigid and it stands up well for a bookmark. And all I'm going to do is the marker to stamp technique, but what I'm going to do is stick to my two colours that I used in the others, the Bermuda Bay and the Pacific Point, and I'm going to have a two-tone effect. I'm going to do her hair in the soft suede colour, and I'm going to do her arm and skin in soft suede as well, because I want that to be a fairly dark line. But look how I'm doing the stamp here. I'm doing a diagonal across in Pacific Point, and then I'm doing the other side of the diagonal in Bermuda Bay. And this gives a really cool effect. You wait until you see this finished. Now I haven't moved these stamps from my stamp positioner. They're perfectly lined up for each one of those bookmarks, and it makes it really easy. And I've decided that this is the best way to do it. And if there's any little parts you've missed, you can just add a little bit extra if they didn't come out quite as dark as you wanted. And now that's looking really nice. I really like this now. So we've sort of got a bluey greeny. Oh, just two colours, particularly in the little quote. It's just gorgeous. Now, I do think that this is going to dry a little bit lighter. So let's see how it dries. Here are the three together, but the left one isn't finished yet. I want to bring in some sparkly fish scales on her tail. So for that, I'm going to use some Kinderglitz in Crystallina, and I'm just going to paint that on with the same brush, only the brush is dry now. I'm using it to spread out the Kinderglitz. I'm going to give her a little sparkle on her headband as well. And I'm going to give some sparkle to that little starfish. Oh, and I just love these three bookmarks. They are really adorable. And I'll show you all the sheen and sparkle in her tail. See how it looks like fish scales? Really cool. And this won't rub off onto your book because it's a glitter glue. It's already embedded in the glue. So once it's dried, it's permanent. And look how shimmery it is against this silver with the elegant eggplant cardstock. You could use any really dark purple cardstock for this and it would work. So there's our project for today. I have some wonderful close-up shots for you coming up now, and you can see them, how they've dried and how great they look. I'm really happy with them. I love the splash. You want to try this technique if you haven't done so. You will need good quality watercolour paper to make it work. And then the shimmery white cardstock. And then the elegant eggplant with that gorgeous silver embossing. So I'm going to leave a link to some more videos for you to have a look at now. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.